Hello, everyone. This is a part 2 of a chapter 11 lecture, and we're going to start with our first topic, transfer prices and taxes. You may wonder why all of a sudden we are talking about transfer prices and taxes and how these topics are related to or relevant to our primary topic, vertical integration. And that's exactly what we're going to uh, uh, investigate in this session. And so let's talk about transfer price first. So let me turn to the lecture note. So what is a transfer price? Let me make it a little bit bigger. Okay. A transfer price is an accounting entry that reflects the internal price of an input that the input producing division charges the input using division. So first the keyword here is it is accounting entry. Okay, just for the record, they have to record this. And it reflects the internal price of an input that the input producing division. So input producing division means an upstream division, right? So this is an upstream division charges the input using division. So this is a downstream division. So it is an accounting entry. So that means there may not be, there doesn't have to be actual the payment made by a downstream division to an upstream division, but because they are all within the same company, but for some tax purpose they have to record it. Okay, for example, what's the cost of what an input that an upstream division provides to a downstream division. Okay, so a transfer price is what? It's not real price. A buyer pays. It is just what? An accounting entry that input producing division, an upstream division charges the input using division, a downstream division. Okay, so we're going to use a more concrete example to have a better understanding of the concept of a transfer price and also how this topic is related to tax. So example, Yamaha has its subsidiaries in two countries. So Yamaha is a famous piano manufacturer, and it has two subsidiaries. So it has two divisions in two countries. One is in Malaysia, and the other is in Japan. So Yamaha pianos are manufactured in Malaysia and distributed through its subsidiary in Japan. So think of this example like this. So Yamaha has the what? Two divisions. So one is the what? The upstream division, in Malaysia. So it is a manufacturing division, and the distribution division or a downstream division in Japan. Okay. The income tax rate is 25% in Malaysia and 16.5% in Japan. So these numbers are all arbitrary, okay? So Yamaha, even though both upstream division, downstream division, or manufacturing division or distribution division, they are all within the same company, Yamaha, but when the company has to pay tax where it is earning an income, then When the income is earned in Malaysia, the income is subject to relatively high tax rate, 25%, and the income is earned in Japan, then tax rate is relatively low, 16.5%. So the following table shows two different scenarios. Okay, we're gonna first focus on the first one. Okay, so look at the left panel of this table. So here in Malaysia, where the manufacturing division is, so, well, the manufacturing division, the upstream division, well, it doesn't cost them a lot of money to produce, to manufacture a piano. So they say, so the upstream division charges the distribution division $4,000 for each piano. So now you compare these two columns. So here is what? Manufacturing division, and this is distribution division. So when this manufacturing division charges $4,000 per piano, then what? It is what? Even though it is an accounting entry, that is what? The price distribution division page. So this appears here what? As a cost here, cost per piano. Okay. So let's say here in manufacturing division, okay, well, true cost of what? Manufacturing a piano, raw materials, and labor, let's say it's $1,000. But when it is supplying a completely the piano to distribution division, it charges $4,000. So within the manufacturing division, profit per piano before tax is what? 4,000 minus 1,000. So 4,000 minus 1,000 is what? $3,000. Okay. And then the profit is earned in Malaysia, so it is subject to the income tax law of Malaysia. So the tax rate is 25%. So 25% times the profit, $3,000. That's exactly what? $750. So that's the tax liability on of the what? Manufacturing division in Malaysia, so tax. So profit after tax is what? Well, $4,000, that's the what? Transfer price, manufacturing division charges, distribution division in Japan, but true cost of production is, let's say, $1,000. And then the income was earned in Malaysia, so pay 25% of its profit for tax. That is a 750. So the difference is what? 2250. So that's a profit after tax of what? Manufacturing division in Malaysia. Now, what about distribution division? Let's say their retail price is $5,000. The distribution division in Japan is selling each piano for $5,000 to consumers. But in the accounting entry, the price manufacturing division charges the distribution division for each piano is what? $4,000. So that is considered what? Cost for distribution division. So for distribution division in Japan, the profit is what? $1,000. 5,000 minus 4,000 is 1,000. So when distribution division earns an income of $1,000, now what? The income was earned in Japan, so it is just subject to Japanese tax law, and the tax rate is 16.5%. So the $1,000 times 16.5% is exactly $165. So after tax profit, profit after tax is what? $835. That is retail price 5,000 and the transfer price 4,000 minus tax 165. So that is exactly what? $835. So what is the total profit? So total profit here is 2250 plus 835 is so total profit from both divisions is $3,085. Okay. Now let me use pick different color here. So now here on the right hand side of the panel, now we have a different transfer price. The true cost of producing a piano is still $1,000. But now manufacturing division is now what? Charging much lower transfer price. So $2,000. So as if distribution division in Japan is buying each piano from the manufacturing division for by paying what $2,000 per piano. So in this case, now what? What's the profit of a manufacturing division in Malaysia? It charges $2,000, but true cost is $1,000. So the profit is only what? $1,000. And tax rate in Malaysia is 25%. So 25% times $1,000 is $250. So that's the tax liability. And so profit minus tax. So after tax profit after tax is what? $750. Now, the retail price of the piano is still $5,000. But now this time, distribution division will make a lot more profit. Why? Because the price it pays to manufacturing division is much smaller than before, only $2,000. So now distribution division is making much larger profit. Retail price minus transfer price, cost, so $3,000. And tax rate in Japan is lower than in Malaysia, so 16.5% times the distribution division's profit, $3,000 is what? $495. So that's tax. So 3,000 minus 495. So what? After tax profit is what? $2,505. So when the manufacturing division intentionally set its transfer price very low, so what is the total profit? The combined profit of the two divisions for Yamaha? That is $750 plus $2,505. So that is $3,255. So now compare here. The same cost of manufacturing, $1,000 per piano. Same retail price, $5,000 per piano. But when you manipulate transfer price like this, then what? Yamaha ends up making a lot more profit. So that's why transfer price is what? A relevant topic in the context of what? Vertical integration and the tax. So what this example tells us is this. If transfer pricing is left unchecked, it's not, if transfer pricing is not properly regulated, then what happens? It can be used, the what? a way to shift profits from high tax countries to low tax countries. In this example, indeed, if two countries had exactly the same income tax rate, then what? Yamaha will end up making exactly the same amount of profit, no, regardless of the transfer price. But in Malaysia, income tax rate is 25%. In Japan, income tax rate is only 16.5%. So what? They are manipulating transfer price so the company Yamaha can shift its tax liability from high tax country Malaysia to low tax country Japan. So that way they can reduce their tax liability and as a result earn much greater profit. Okay. So that is the problem. So indeed, what happens here is what? So, well, the governments are well aware of this. So, tax laws in many countries, tax laws in many countries require require that the transfer price be the same as the price charged to an independent buyer. So what it means is, suppose the manufacturing division in Malaysia, okay, suppose the manufacturing division if the manufacturing division is what producing more pianos than its distribution division requires. Let's say the distribution division in Japan only needs what? Let's say 1,000 pianos a month. But what if manufacturing division produces 1,300 pianos a month? Then it will have what? A surplus of 300 pianos. And that the manufacturing division may sell those 300 surplus to other independent distributors. So if the manufacturing division charges $4,000 per piano when it sells a piano to an independent distributor, then what? The tax law requires that the manufacturing division charge exactly the same price it what its own distribution division. So they cannot shift tax liability by manipulating transfer price. Okay. Now here we're going to talk about another related topic that is a tax inversion. So what is a tax inversion? Tax inversion is also called corporate inversion. Okay. You may not find this in the textbook, but it is a relevant topic. A tax inversion is also called corporate inversion, and it is a process by which companies primarily based in the US, so originally US companies, okay, they are relocating their operations overseas where income tax rate is lower. And that is called a tax inversion or corporate inversion. Why? Because a company is subject to the income tax laws of the country where it is domiciled. In other words, where it is incorporated. Legally, you change your business residence. Okay. So when U.S. companies are moving to China or another country where income tax rate is relatively low, then primarily what? Your company, the profit those companies are making is subject to the income tax laws of what? China. So this is what we call corporate inversion or tax inversion. So again, we're going to use a more concrete example here, okay? All right. Consider a manufacturing company that incorporated itself in the US. So the company started off as a US, as an American business company. For years, most of its revenue came from US sales. But as the market conditions changes, so now it is starting the what? Making the different amounts of income from the US and from other parts of the world. But recently, a significant portion of its sales is coming from China, where the income tax rate is much lower than in the US. So the company's total income is, say, $100 million. So right now, so originally, most of its sales revenue came from the sales in the US, but now, out of a $100 million the income, $80 million are from China and the $20 million from the US. The income tax rate is 40% in the US and the 20% in China. Again, I picked those numbers arbitrarily. Okay. So will the company be better off for tax purpose if it reincorporates in China or if it moves its business residence to China? Okay. So here I show you a simple calculation. Before the tax inversion, before the corporate inversion, in other words, if the company remains as a US company, American company, then US income tax liability is 40% income tax rate times $100 million. Okay, so here you may wonder why it is $100 million when the company earned only $20 million of its income from the US sales. Well, according to the US tax laws, income earned from abroad is still what? Subject to US tax laws, or the income earned from abroad is still taxed in the US. So if you remain in the US, then what? No matter where you earn your income, as long as you remain as an American company, then what? Your income is subject to your US income tax rate. So 40% times $100 million. So you end up paying $40 million for tax. But if you move, since you are earning significant portion of your income from sales in China, so if the company reincorporates in China, if it moves its tax residence to China, then what? The portion of the US income tax you pay is what? Well, now you are no longer an American company. You become a Chinese company. And then you will only pay tax on the portion of the what? Your income earned in US market. And the income you earned from US market is only $20 million. So what? So you pay 40% of it for tax. So what? Your US income tax liability will be reduced dramatically. Okay. So for tax purpose, it is common that companies are trying to move their tax residence to low tax income tax country. That is what we call the corporate inversion or the tax inversion. Okay. Now let me give you an example. The Burger King. I mean, all of you know Burger King, okay, like Wendy's or McDonald's. It's a chain of the fast food burger chain store. Indeed, the Burger King left for Canada in a tax inversion, when it purchased a Canadian donut chain. So Burger King wanted to move its business residents to Canada, where the income tax rate is relatively low. How did the Burger King do it? Well, it acquired a Canadian donut chain, and then what? Made that company the mother company of what? The parent company of what? The Burger King business. So sometimes what? Big US companies are acquiring very small foreign company. And then such a small foreign company becomes the parent company of what? US companies. So that way they move their tax residence to another country where income tax rate is relatively low. And that's what we call tax inversion or corporate inversion. So of course, the governments are well aware of such a practice, so they try to regulate it. So that is, so in April the 2016, so in April 2016, um, U.S. government changed tax regulations. And so simply what? The it made it difficult for a merging U.S. company to qualify as being owned by a small foreign company. Okay, so that's the what a lot of companies are still trying to move their tax residence, but now it is still possible, but the tax regulations made in 2016 now made it a lot more difficult for a U.S. company to be uh, owned by a small foreign company. Okay, so tax inversion and or corporate inversion. Our next topic is economics of vertical integration. So in this section, we're going to investigate a very important topic, that is how vertical integration affects a firm's cost. Okay, so vertical integration is all about what the the manager's decision on vertical integration is all about what? How to choose the length of what? Supply chain or the firm's vertical boundaries. So it's all about the what? Benefits and cost. What's the benefit when you are more integrated, vertically integrated, and what's the cost? So you compare cost and benefits. Okay. So first, we're going to look at various potential cost savings, possible cost savings from vertical integration, and then we're going to examine downside, cost side of what a firm being vertically integrated. So first, we're going to talk about the benefits, potential benefits of what the vertical integration. Okay. First, cost savings from synergies. So here, sometimes we call that synergistic cost savings. Okay, so cost savings from synergies. So when two independent companies are merged, so here, for example, the one company acquires another. So let's say one company is acquiring what? It could be here another company. So here means it's here another company means it could be either uh, the what uh, on the upstream productive capacity or a downstream productive capacity. Okay, so one company is what? Adding another upstream division by taking over an input producing company. Or one company is expanding its supply chain toward the downstream by acquiring or by taking over a, a chain of retailers. So when you do that, so when, let's say in extreme case, when two companies are merged into one, then now they no longer need to maintain, for example, two accounting offices or two HR offices, right? Before merger, each company had its own accounting office or HR office. But once they are merged into one, then they don't have to have what? Two accounting offices or departments or two HR departments. So these are examples of what cost savings are from synergies. Okay, so simply you can reduce uh, some of the overhead cost. Okay, now second example of potential cost savings from vertical integration are actually what you can reduce or avoid a lot of transaction cost. Okay, so then what is exactly transaction cost? Let's first define transaction cost. So transaction cost is what? The expenses incurred, the incurred when buying or selling a good through market transactions. Okay, and this is what? Indeed, in addition to the price of a good. Okay. Of course, whenever you buy, sell something, you have to pay the price for that. But transaction cost is what? On top of the price of the good, you still incur some other expenses. And we call those additional expenses transaction cost. First example of transaction cost. When you produce a part, an input internally, and you let your downstream division use it, it's not real market transaction. So there won't be any tax. But whenever you buy an input apart from an independent market firm, then what? It is a market transaction, and then you got to pay tax, like a sales tax. So through vertical integration, you can avoid uh, some taxes. And second, actually, you can reduce or avoid some information cost. So what is exactly information cost? When you decide to buy something from another independent market firm, okay, it could be what? Using a spot market or more general, the using market. but it does incur information cost because you need to know whether the the potential seller has enough capacity to produce an input that you need, whether its price is reasonably low, or whether they can produce a high quality product. So you have to do a lot of homework. You have to search the market and then what? Find out a lot of information, time and money. So that's information cost. Another example of transaction cost that you have to incur whenever you use the market transaction is what? Negotiation cost. Okay. So you found a reliable supplier. Now negotiation starts over the price. Okay. So that's a negotiation cost. And also, if your market transaction does require, some legal contract or legal relationship, okay, then you have to what? Draft a contract, and on each and every detail, and then you may need to even hire lawyers. Okay, so to arrange all this, contract, it does take a lot of money and time. So that's a negotiation cost. Now, what about monitoring cost? Even after you signed an agreement with a market firm, and then now you have to monitor them very carefully, whether they comply with it, they abide by all the agreements, whether they still produce a product at the the required the reasonable or recommended quality. Okay, so you have to monitor them. That also costs you a lot of money and time. And also enforcement cost. What if you discovered the independent supplier does not comply with all the agreements? Then probably what? Now you're going to have to force them to pay you any kind of damages or to correct to fix the problem. Okay, and if they refuse to do so, then what? Probably you will have to sort it out in the court. So that is what? Enforcement cost. So cost of what? Ensuring compliance. Okay, so let me briefly write this down. So information cost is what? Basically the uh, the you have to search for the sellers. So quality or their capacity, production capacity, and etc. Negotiation cost is what? You have to, once you find a good supplier seller, then what? You have to arrange terms or drafting contracts. Okay, and the monitoring cost. Do they really comply with the contract? So that's a monitoring cost. And the enforcement cost is what? When they fail to do so, now to ensure the the cost of the what? Imposing the compliance. Okay, all right. So here, comply with the contract. That means what? You have to monitor to ensure the compliance. But if you found that they failed to do so, then what? Now you have to impose compliance. That also costs you a lot of money. Now the last example of transaction cost that you have to incur when you when you use a market firm when you use market transaction is what? Reduce the flexibility. Okay. So for example, you establish the legal relationship contract with the supplier. Okay. And then now here, so you agreed to it. So here, uh, you buy X amount of an input. Okay. Every month. Okay. But now business is slow as the market condition changes. So what? Actually, you don't need to use what X amount of input every month. So actually, you need what much less than pre-specified amount. But the seller may say, "I'm sorry, what's happening at your end, but you agreed to buy X amount of this input from us every month. So you have to buy it, regardless of how much input you need a month. But since you agreed to buy X amount of this input every month, so you have to buy it. So you have what? Legal obligation. If you had what an upstream division within your company, and if that upstream division produced what the necessary input, then what? There's no legal contract, right? Because you are still in the same company, so you can flexibly what increase or decrease the production of an input. But when you use a market firm based upon legal contract, then what? You don't have such a flexibility. So these are all examples of what transaction costs that occur when you use market firms. So if you do them, perform all these processes what in-house, then what? You don't have to worry about incurring all these transaction costs. So that's why we include these transaction costs what as a benefit of what being vertically integrated. Now, accommodate technical interdependencies. So when you have the what when there are several different stages in production, and between some stages there could be what a great deal of what technical interdependencies. So if that is true, then what vertical integration actually can make the whole production process a lot more cost effective. So let me give you an example. For instance, in steel industry, okay, and it is very common to have what side by side location of what furnaces, casting units, mills. Why do they do that? Okay, when they have all different production process, what closely what to each other, then what it can save a lot of money on fuel because they don't have to reheat pig iron, for example. And also when they are physically located what close to each other, then what the vertical integration can ensure the steady flow of what material. So it'll make a whole production process a lot more cost effective. Okay. Also, in soft drink industry, we often see can manufacturing plant and the can filling plant, I mean bottling company, they are typically what located close to each other. So if two different production process, can filling, can making, the producing plant, if they are vertically what integrated within the same company, then what they can be located right next to each other. So what they can reduce the significant portion of what transportation cost. Okay, so when there are some close technical interdependencies, then what through vertical integration, a firm can fully take advantage of what such cost effectiveness. Okay, now another problem here. Okay, no, not the problem. Another benefit you can expect from vertical integration. That is what through vertical integration you can avoid hold up problems. Okay, hold up problems. Sometimes we call that post investment holdups. So that means when two companies have what market transactions at an arm's length, there are two different independent companies, and what they sign an agreement because they believe the market transaction is what the beneficial to both companies. But sometimes after the agreement is signed off by both parties, then what? Maybe one party may have an incentive what to gain extra profit at the expense of the other. So when one party to an agreement tries to make extra profit by unilaterally changing the terms of the agreement or insisting on renegotiation once transaction specific investment is made. And so such attempt is what made at the what the other party's expense. Whenever it happens, we say there is a holdup problem or post investment holdup. So here the keyword is of course a holdup problem, but another keyword here is what? Transaction specific investment. So what is a transaction specific investment? Transaction specific investment means it is an investment made for transaction specific assets. That's what we call transaction specific investment. It is very common that we witness holdup problems where a significant amount of transaction specific investments are made. Okay, so let me give you just a quick example. Suppose that a company builds a plant to produce a cup holders specifically for Ford Mustang. So here a cup holder producer, and here Ford company. And the Ford company is what? So these two companies are having market transactions. So the cup holder producer will manufacture cup holders designed specifically for Ford Mustang. Okay. Now to do so, this producer had to make what? An investment to design a new mold and whatever to satisfy all the specifications from the Ford Mustang. So even before this cup holder produced the first cup holder for Mustang, this producer had to make what? A lot of transaction specific investment because that investment was made specifically for transaction specific product cup holder for Mustang. So in good faith, this cup holder producer made such a transaction specific investment. Now, remember, holdup problem is also called what? Post investment holdup. So once investment was made, completed, now Ford does understand this. The cup holder specifically designed for Mustang would have a little value outside this business relationship. In other words, if somehow Ford can find a small an excuse not to accept the cup holders. Okay. So Ford says, I'm sorry you made such large amount of investment in good faith, but we discovered some problems, some defects. So we cannot accept the cup holders that you produced for us as they are. Okay. So either you're gonna have to, produce them again, or since we already know that you made such good investment in good faith, so what? Well, we are willing to renegotiate the price of a cup holder. So Ford is what? After investment was made, Ford is trying to hold up this cup holder producer. So this is an example of what? The hold up problem. Okay. So, well, of course, you may say, well, there could be what? More complete the contract. But, well, contract can mediate a lesson, a problem like this. But when you arrange terms, when you draft a contract, can you really envision all potential holder problems in advance? That's almost impossible. So simply there is no such thing as a complete or perfect contract. So when market transactions occur between two business firms, two independent firms at an arm's length, and specifically when a transaction specific investment is required by one of the two parties, then what? There is a great potential for holder problems. Okay, so in that case, if it was done internally through vertical integration, then what? Because upstream division and downstream division, they are still what? Within the same company. So we do not have to worry about this kind of a post-investment holders. So far, so we discussed the benefits of what? A firm being vertically integrated. If we summarize again, there could be some cost savings from synergies by simply what? Avoiding the duplication of unnecessary functions. And through vertical integration, you can reduce what? Market transactions. So you can reduce what? Tax, information cost, negotiation cost, monitoring cost, enforcement cost, or the what? Reduce the flexibility. Okay, so you can reduce a lot of transaction cost. And in case where there are some technical interdependencies between two different stages of production, then what? When each stage is performed by an independent company, then what? They may not be able to take advantage of such technical interdependencies. But if the two stages are performed by the same company in-house through vertical integration, then they can achieve cost savings or make the whole production process a lot more cost effective. And as we discussed a moment ago, when instead of what market transactions, when a vertically integrated firm makes transaction specific investment or the the uh, the uh, make an investment what for transaction specific product, then what? Well, because two divisions are within the same company, so we don't have to worry about post investment holders. Okay, so those are what examples of benefits of what being vertically integrated. Now, what are the costs of being vertically integrated? But the downside of a firm being vertically integrated is what? So when a firm's increasingly vertically integrated, then what? It's a scope of a business operation will also increase. Simply put, there will be more decisions for managers to make because there are more and more divisions as a supply chain expands, what either toward downstream or toward upstream or both. So the costs are summarized here in two ways. One is an increase in required areas of expertise. So vertical integration is not just that simple. When you acquire another company through mergers, so your supply chain expands. And then what? As a manager, you have to acquire what? New set of expertise as well. So here, for example, here you have you have a guacamole company, and here avocado farms. So previously, these two independent companies had market transactions, and this guacamole company purchased a lot of avocados from these farms. But now, what if they are vertically integrated? And then, well, previously, when this company purchased avocado from these farms, then what? They didn't have to know how to grow avocados. But now, if the guacamole company takes over all these avocado farms, then now what? Now they needed to, the top management of a guacamole company, they needed to acquire new set of expertise about how to grow avocado, how to manage farms. So an increase in required areas of expertise. So that's one example of the cost of being vertically integrated. Now, second example is what? An increase in the complexity of a coordination. Okay. So, for example, here, um, yeah, let's say, let me use the same example here again. Ford Mustang. Well, people say what to manufacture or to manufacture a car, what there are about what uh, more than 20,000 parts are required. Okay, so let's say here one of them is what, a cup holder. Okay, and then when they had the market transactions at an arm's length, then what? Well, Ford Mustang didn't have to worry about how the anything about the production process of a cup holders, because as long as what cup holders finish the products, have what the right quality at the reasonable price, then what it's acceptable. But if a Ford Mustang added another upstream division, and now that new division is what producing cup holders internally, then what? Again, just what one more stage of what coordination. Okay, so that's the problem. And so the what relative to the benefits of a vertical integration, the cost of a vertical integration is it's less clearly defined. Okay. Also, in general, we can say the cost of being vertically integrated is what any kind of inefficiencies that are associated with increase the scope of a business operation. Okay, and we call that managerial diseconomies. So here, let me write this down. So any all inefficiencies associated with the increased scope of a business operation. Okay, and we call this what? Simply managerial diseconomies. And there are two examples. So one is what? At least what? Management needs to acquire new set of expertise as it adds the what? A new division. And also there will be what? An increase in the complexity of what? Coordination. Simply you have what? More decisions to make. So what? You have a lot more layer after layer of the what? Coordination or decision making problems. And all those inefficiencies what? Will add up and eventually what? Increase the cost of doing business. And so we call that managerial diseconomies. Okay. So through vertical integration, then what? Your internal coordination becomes a lot more complex, and eventually that will make your production process a little less cost effective. Okay. All right. This will conclude our lecture of chapter, yeah, part 2 of chapter 11. And I will see you again with another topic, a new chapter next time. Thank you.